If you say that one more time, I'm gonna choke out of you when I see you. Black guy choke small white woman.
You're trying to hang out with these young and you can't do it, Shannon. Shannon, you don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
Shannon Sharpe 1 year ago was warned by Monique Hicks about messing around with younger girls and how he needed to settle down for someone closer to his age. But with Shannon, he never liked the idea.
Hey, I'm getting old, but my eyesight's still young.
Shannon's impulsive behavior with younger women will eventually lead him to major legal trouble, because now Shannon is being sued for over $50 million by a 20-year-old OnlyFans model who claims he did this on screen. Along with a relationship that started when she was just 19, that turned abusive, caused psychological and emotional distress. Shannon Sharpe offered his accuser $10 million to settle before the case was filed. This isn't the first conspiracy Shannon Sharpe has had to deal with or be accused about.
This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men.
Tony Busby, the lawyer representing the victim in this case, is the same person who targeted Jay-Z as well.
Tony Busby targets black men.
And Shannon believes as well, Tony Busby will try to release a certain tape that will ruin Shannon's image. This situation between Shannon Sharpe and OF model Gabriella Zuniga needs to be broken down and see what exactly led to this lawsuit. Shannon Sharpe, a Hall of Famer, a man who transitioned from football to becoming a sports media icon, co-hosting fiery debate shows like First Tale, and then absolutely exploding onto the podcast scene with Club Shay Shay and The Nightcap, pulling in millions of views, interviewing A-listers, and reportedly on the verge of a colossal $100 million deal. He's charismatic, he's got catchphrases for days, he's built an empire on being unks and having a tell-it-like-it-is personality. But beneath that veneer of success and affability, a storm has been brewing, one that now threatens to flood everything he's built. A lawsuit has dropped, and it's not just any lawsuit. We're talking allegations of the most serious nature, sexual assault, battery, and terrifying threats. The accuser, a woman named Gabriella Zuniga, has stepped forward, and she's not alone. She's represented by Tony Busby, a lawyer whose name alone sends ripples through the legal and media worlds. This is the same Tony Busby who was front and center in the Deshaun Watson saga, who has been involved in lawsuits against Diddy, and who recently attempted to sue Jay-Z. So when Busby's name is attached, you know things are about to get serious and incredibly messy. The lawsuit itself paints a disturbing picture, alleging a relationship that turned coercive and dull and violent. We're talking about claims of forced encounters, of a powerful man allegedly using his status and physical presence to intimidate and control. And the details as laid out in the legal filings are stark and deeply unsettling. This isn't some minor dispute. These are career-altering, reputation-shattering accusations. The initial reaction, as you can imagine, was a firestorm. Social media exploded. Fans were divided, with some rushing to Sharpe's defense, citing his long public career and likable persona, while others pointed to the seriousness of the allegations and the involvement of a high-profile lawyer like Busby as reasons to take them very seriously. The polarization was immediate and intense. It's the kind of story that forces everyone to pick a side, even with limited information. And that's part of the insanity right there, the speed at which narratives form, the way public opinion crystallizes often before a single piece of concrete evidence beyond the initial claims is even widely understood or verified. But what makes this Shannon Sharpe situation truly veer into the realm of the unbelievable, what elevates it beyond your typical celebrity scandal, is Sharpe's response. Because he didn't just issue a standard denial through his legal team. Oh no, he went nuclear. In a move that left jaws on the floor across the internet, Shannon Sharpe, or at least his legal team, decided to fight fire with fire, or perhaps fight a wildfire with a self-detonated information bomb. Instead of a carefully worded statement of denial and a promise to fight the allegations in court, they unleashed a torrent of private text messages between Sharpe and Gabriella Zuniga. A public figure accused of heinous acts chose to combat those accusations by releasing incredibly intimate, explicit, and frankly, jaw-droppingly personal communications for the entire world to see. The rationale, as stated by his lawyer, lawyers was to prove that the relationship was consensual, that Zuniga's claims were a fabrication, part of a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. They painted her as the initiator of graphic and specific sexual requests, effectively arguing that her own words would dismantle her allegations. And the texts themselves, well, they are, to put it mildly, a trip. This line, allegedly from Zuniga, "I know you missed this big juicy butt, 25,000 for each cheek." It's a level of explicitness rarely seen in public disputes, even those involving celebrities. The insanity here is multi-layered. First, the audacity of releasing such material. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy. On one hand, it aims to immediately discredit the accuser in the court of public opinion by portraying her as someone engaged in extreme role play and potentially motivated by financial gain or a desire to trap Sharpe with a child. On the other hand, it's an incredible invasion of privacy, his own and hers, and it opens Sharpe up to immense scrutiny and criticism regardless of the lawsuit's outcome. People are left wondering, what kind of relationship was this? And even if it was consensual role play, does that automatically negate any subsequent claim of non-consent? The narrator in me, the one who's seen 1,000 of these media storms, has to ask, was this a masterstroke of legal defense, a desperate gamble, or simply an act of someone feeling so utterly cornered that they felt they had no choice but to lay all their cards, no matter how shocking it was, on the table? The public reaction to the text dump was, predictably, another explosion. Some saw it as definitive proof of Sharpe's innocence, a clear case of a consensual relationship being twisted into something sinister. Others were appalled by the content itself, arguing that even if consensual, it reflected poorly on Sharpe, especially given the age difference often highlighted in discussions about him. And many, quite rightly, pointed out that consensual roleplay in the past doesn't preclude the possibility of non-consensual acts later. The insanity of it all is that we, the public, are now privy to these incredibly private exchanges, forced to become amateur forensic analysts of kink talk, trying to piece together a narrative from a curated selection of messages. It's a spectacle, and Shannon Sharpe himself lit the match. Now let's try to deconstruct this mountain of evidence, because that's what both sides are presenting, isn't it? The lawsuit lays out specific allegations. Shannon Sharpe, on certain dates, allegedly forced himself upon Gabriella Zuniga. It speaks of a power imbalance, of threats, of fear. One of the most chilling lines reported from an alleged audio recording, though the context and authenticity are part of the dispute, is Sharpe purportedly saying, "If you said that word one more time, I'm gonna the shit out of you when I see you," and Zuniga replying, "Well, I don't want to be to which the voice attributed to Sharpe allegedly responds, "Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter." If true, and if not part of a consensual roleplay scenario, which is Sharpe's camp's implication for such language, that's incredibly damning. It speaks directly to coercion and a disregard for consent. Then you have the text messages released by Sharpe's team. These texts, as we've discussed, paint a picture of a relationship steeped in roleplay themes, with Zuniga allegedly making explicit requests for rough acts, for being choked, for being tied up. Messages like, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're me," or "I want to be a," are presented as clear indicators of the consensual nature of their encounters. Sharpe's lawyers argue these texts demonstrate a broader pattern of graphic communications initiated by Miss Zuniga, and that their relationship included role-playing sexual language and fantasy scenarios explicitly requested by Miss Zuniga. So how do we reconcile these two seemingly contradictory sets of information? This is where the skepticism really has to kick in. On one hand, if Zuniga was consistently and enthusiastically requesting these specific roleplay acts, it does make her later claims of those same acts being non-consensual more complicated to prove. The defense would argue that she got what she asked for. However, the core tenet of consent, especially within roleplay communities, is that it is ongoing, enthusiastic, and can be withdrawn at any time. Past consent does not equal future consent. A person can enjoy and request certain acts one day and not want them the next. They can consent to role-playing a scenario scenario of non-consent without actually surrendering their right to stop the encounter. This is a nuance that often gets lost in the public rush to judgment. Furthermore, we have to consider the source and completeness of the text messages. Sharpe's team released them. Are they cherry-picked? Do they represent the entirety of their communications, or only the parts that support his narrative? Zuniga's lawyer, Tony Busby, claims the video evidence he possesses has been heavily edited and taken entirely out of context by Sharpe's team in their description of it, and has refused to provide the full unedited version initially, though Sharpe's statement later demands Busby release the full video. The text about wanting a baby and the $25,000 per cheek comment add another layer of complexity, suggesting potential financial motivations or an attempted entrapment, which bolsters Sharpe's blackmail claim. But again, does a questionable motive on Zuniga's part automatically invalidate all her claims about consent? It's a tangled web, and pulling on one thread often just tightens the knots elsewhere. We are left to ponder whether the explicit texts are a shield for Sharpe or if they obscure a darker reality. The timeline of events is absolutely critical in trying to make any sense of this convoluted mess. According to Zuniga's lawsuit, she and Sharpe met in 2023. She claims he pursued her relentlessly. Sharpe's camp doesn't dispute a relationship, but frames it as entirely consensual and driven by Zuniga's explicit desires. The text messages released by Sharpe's team seem to span from around March 2023 into early 2025. For much of this period, the texts appear to show a mutually kinky dialogue. However, Zuniga's lawsuit alleges a shift in the dynamic, particularly focusing on incidents that she claims were non-consensual. A key period seems to be around September 2024, when Shannon Sharpe accidentally went live on Instagram during an intimate encounter with a different woman. Zuniga, in text released by Sharpe, expressed extreme displeasure, writing, "When I'm 152 pounds but you can't touch me because you cheated on me on Instagram live, I'm gonna be 180 soon, and you're still not gonna be able to touch me. I bet you regret your actions right about now," and demanding a formal apology. This cheating incident, as she termed it, appears to be a significant turning point from her perspective. The lawsuit details an alleged assault on October 6, 2024, where Sharpe supposedly confronted her angrily at a gym in Nevada, forced her into his car, took her to her apartment, and assaulted her, allegedly saying things like, "You've disrespected me so much, I'm gonna punish this a-hole. I'm gonna make it so no man will want you again." And this is a horrifying allegation. The question then becomes, how do the text messages released by Sharpe's team, which he claims show ongoing consensual communication until January 2nd, 2025, fit with this? If such a brutal assault occurred on October 6th, 2024, what was the nature of their communication between then and early January 2025? Sharpe's team released texts from December 26, 2024, where Zuniga is demanding an apology, saying, "All you say is I'm sorry, but you never say what you were sorry for. How you gonna make it right, okay? Because you really hurt me." Was this hurt related to the alleged October assault or the ongoing cheating issue or something else entirely? Then things get even stranger around New Year's 2025. Sharpe texts her, "Happy New Year. Gabby can't wait to see what 2025 has in store for us." Zuniga replies, "Give me $50,000 and I will let you come over to the house," and sends her PayPal link. He says he has 10K cash. She demands proof. She then sends a naked picture saying, "I know you missed this big juicy butt, 25,000 for each cheek." The lawsuit claims that on January 2nd, 2025, after this money demand, Sharpe came to her apartment, and despite her pleas to use a condom and her saying no, he forced himself on her again. Let's talk motives, because in any he said she said situation, especially one involving demands for large sums of money, the question of motive looms incredibly large. Shannon Sharpe and his legal team have been very clear. They believe Gabriella Zuniga's lawsuit is a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. They point to the text messages where she allegedly demands $50,000 for a visit, the $25,000 per cheek comment, and her alleged desire to have his baby and be stuck with it for life as evidence of a financial agenda, possibly even a premeditated plan to extort him. The lawsuit itself demands $50 million in damages. That's a staggering sum, and it naturally raises eyebrows. Adding fuel to this shakedown theory is the revelation that Sharpe's legal team reportedly offered Zuniga a settlement of at least $10 million to resolve the matter privately before the lawsuit was filed. According According to Sharpe's attorney, Lanny Davis, Zuniga initially seemed open to this deal, but then, without warning, walked away from our offer and filed the public lawsuit. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. Why would Sharpe offer $10 million if he believed he was entirely innocent and the victim of a blackmail attempt? Legally, settling a case doesn't admit guilt. It's often a pragmatic decision to avoid the costs, time, and reputational damage of a public trial, especially for a high-profile individual. He might have seen it as the lesser of two evils, a way to make a problem go away, even if he felt unjustly accused. However, in the court of public opinion, offering such a large sum can look like an admission of at least some wrongdoing, or at the very least, a desperate attempt to buy silence. Conversely, why would Gabriella Zuniga turn down $10 million if her primary motive was a financial shakedown? $10 million is a life-changing amount of money. If it was purely about the cash, wouldn't she have taken the guaranteed payday rather than risk a lengthy, uncertain, and very public court battle for a higher, but by no means assured, sum of $50 million? This is where things get murky. Some might argue that turning down $10 million suggests her grievance is genuine and she's seeking justice, not just money, or that she believes her case is strong enough to win the full $50 million. Others might speculate that her legal counsel, Tony Busby, advised her to hold out for more, perhaps seeing a bigger potential payout or greater public impact. Busby's involvement itself is a significant factor. He has a reputation for taking on high-profile, often sensational cases, and he's not afraid of media attention. His track record with cases like Deshaun Watson's, which involved numerous accusers and ultimately led to settlements, or his more recent, albeit dismissed, lawsuit against Jay-Z, shows a pattern of aggressive litigation against wealthy and famous individuals. Is he an advocate for the underdog or an opportunist looking for the next big headline and payout? Sharpe himself, in a public statement, directly accused Busby of orchestrating a shakedown, claiming Busby targets black men. This adds another layer of racial and conspiratorial dynamics to the mix. So, what is the true motive here? Is Zuniga a genuine victim of abuse seeking accountability? Is she a pawn in a larger legal game? Is she an opportunist who saw a wealthy target? Or is it a complex combination of factors? The insanity lies in the fact that the very evidence used to suggest a shakedown, the money demands, the settlement offer refusal, can also be interpreted in ways that don't entirely negate the possibility of genuine harm. It's a maddening puzzle where every piece seems to fit multiple narratives. This isn't the first time Shannon Sharpe has found himself entangled in allegations concerning his behavior towards women, and for many observers, these past incidents, whether proven or not, contribute to a troubling pattern, or at the very least, provide a backdrop against which these new, insane allegations are viewed. Back in 2010, a former girlfriend, Michelle Bundy Evans, obtained a temporary restraining order against Sharpe. She accused him of forcing her to have sex, threatening her life, and placing her under surveillance. Sharpe took a leave of absence from his CBS NFL analyst job at the time. The restraining order was later dismissed, and Sharpe returned to his role. Evans resurfaced these claims more recently, filing a defamation lawsuit in 2023, alleging Sharpe had referenced their legal disputes publicly, though evidence of this was reportedly not found. Sharpe's counsel dismissed Evans' resurrected claims as those of someone obsessed with Shannon who manufactured a claim. They also pointed out her own legal troubles, including alleged prison time for trying to harm her husband. So that situation is incredibly messy on its own, with claims and counterclaims of obsession and manipulation from both sides. Then there was another report from Ryan Glass-Steagall of FrontOfficeSports.com, alleging that Sharpe had choked a female production assistant during his time at Fox Sports. The report, citing anonymous sources, claimed a settlement was reached for several $1,000s, though no lawsuit was filed. A representative for Sharpe denied any incident of choking, but stated that on one occasion, he and a few colleagues were involved in some light physical interaction in a playful context. Fox Sports later chose to resolve the matter privately. The admission of a playful physical interaction that nonetheless required private resolution is, shall we say, interesting. These past incidents, whether they resulted in legal action or were settled quietly, are now being re-examined. For some, they paint a picture of a powerful man with a potential history of problematic behavior towards women. For others, they are old, unproven, or resolved issues being opportunistically dredged up to tarnish tarnish Sharpe's reputation in light of the current, far more explosive Zuniga lawsuit. Beyond these specific allegations, there's Shannon Sharpe's public persona itself. On his shows, particularly Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, he's often very open, some would say too open, about his preferences in women and his sex life. He's joked about nightly duties, his fondness for younger women, and famously declared, "I'm looking for a sinner, send me Miss Nasty B." There was that bizarre viral moment where he seemingly lost control while discussing an OnlyFans model, Sky Bree, exclaiming, "Who that is, coach? How I do it? Hey Scott, I mean, who that? Help me out." It was played for laughs, chalked up to Unk being Unk. But in the context of serious allegations, these public pronouncements take on a different hue for some. Do these on-air antics, this cultivated image of a man with a voracious and specific sexual appetite, offer any insight into his private conduct? Or is it all just part of his brand, a performance designed to be entertaining and relatable to a certain segment of his audience? This is the classic public versus private persona debate. The insanity is how these past issues and his public statements are now being retrospectively analyzed, with people looking for clues, for confirmation bias, or for reasons to dismiss the current allegations. It creates a feedback loop where everything Sharpe has ever said or done in public regarding women is now under a microscope, potentially being twisted or conversely seen as a red flag that was ignored for too long. The public reaction to this whole Shannon Sharpe saga has been nothing short of a digital circus, a chaotic spectacle unfolding in real time across social media platforms, forums, and comment sections. It's insane just how quickly and intensely the internet mobilizes to dissect, debate, and memify a celebrity scandal of this magnitude. From the moment the lawsuit dropped and then amplified exponentially when the text messages were released, it felt like everyone on the internet became a detective, a legal analyst, a moral philosopher, and a comedian all rolled into one. Twitter, or X, or whatever we're calling it this week, became a war zone of hot takes. Instagram comments sections turned into battlegrounds. TikTokers made dramatic reenactments or offered their own unsolicited psychoanalysis. Memes, of course, were generated at lightning speed. A 25K per cheek became an instant classic, alongside countless variations on Sharpe's known catchphrases, now twisted to fit the lurid details of the allegations and his response. It's a testament to the speed of internet culture, but also a somewhat disconcerting reflection of how serious allegations can be trivialized or sensationalized for online engagement. One particularly absurd side story that perfectly encapsulates the chaotic nature of these online frenzies was the case of the wrong Gabriella Zuniga. As people scrambled to find out who the accuser was, they stumbled upon another woman with the same name, who suddenly found her social media profiles inundated with followers and messages. She had to publicly post that she was not the woman involved in the lawsuit and pleaded for people to unfollow her. It's a small but telling example of the collateral damage and sheer randomness that can occur when the internet hive mind goes into overdrive. Beyond the amateur sleuths and meme lords, established media outlets and other commentators have also played a huge role in shaping the narrative. Every new development, every statement from lawyers, every resurfaced old clip of Sharpe is amplified and analyzed. As the dust from the initial explosions of lawsuits and text message revelations begins to settle, we are left looking at a legal battlefield that is likely to be fraught and prolonged. This Shannon Sharpe situation is far from over. In many ways, the insane public spectacle is just the prelude to a grueling legal slog. It's important to remember that Gabriella Zuniga has filed a civil lawsuit. This means she is seeking monetary damages for alleged harm, not criminal charges that could result in imprisonment for Sharpe. The burden of proof in a civil case is typically a preponderance of the evidence, meaning it's more likely than not that the claims are true, which is a lower bar than the beyond a reasonable doubt standard in criminal cases. Both sides will now engage in the process of discovery, where they can request evidence from each other, including the full unedited versions of any recordings, complete text message logs, emails, and potentially depose witnesses under oath. This discovery phase can be lengthy and can unearth even more information, some of which might find its way into the public domain, adding further twists to this already convoluted tale. Shannon Sharpe's legal team, led by Lanny Davis, has come out swinging, not just denying the allegations, but also accusing Zuniga and her attorney Tony Busby of blackmail and a shakedown, Sharpe himself stated, "Gabby and Tony Busby want $50 million. What they're getting is sued for defamation and trying to take me down." This threat of a countersuit for defamation is a common tactic in such high-profile cases. It aims to put the accuser and their legal team on the defensive and signals a willingness to fight aggressively. Whether Sharpe will actually proceed with a defamation suit remains to be seen, but the intent is clear. The legal strategies will be fascinating to watch. Zuniga's team will need to build a case that demonstrates a pattern of coercion and non-consensual acts, trying to convince a jury that despite the explicit text messages and BDSM context, clear lines were crossed and consent was violated on specific occasions. They will likely lean heavily on the alleged audio recordings and Zuniga's testimony. Sharpe's team will continue to hammer the themes of consensual BDM, Zuniga's alleged financial motives, and the claim of a setup. They will argue that the texts prove her enthusiastic participation and that any claims of non-consent are fabrications designed to extort money. The possibility of a settlement always looms. Despite the public acrimony and the $10 million offer being rejected, many civil cases, even highly contentious ones, are ultimately resolved out of court to avoid the risk, expense, and continued public scrutiny of a trial. However, given the aggressive stances taken by both sides, a settlement might be harder to reach. The impact on Shannon Sharpe's career is another major question. He was reportedly on the cusp of a massive $100 million podcast deal. Will these allegations and his very public and explicit way of refuting them derail this? Some companies might shy away from the controversy, while others, perhaps in the more freewheeling podcasting world, might see it as just adding to his notoriety. His existing shows, Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, which he owns, continue, but the long-term brand damage is yet to be determined. The insanity is that this legal chess game, with its complex maneuvers and potential for further shocking revelations, will play out under the intense glare of public opinion, where every move is scrutinized and judged long before a court ever reaches a verdict. So, as we try to wrap our heads around this truly insane Shannon Sharpe situation, what are we left with? We have a Hall of Fame athlete turned media mogul accused of serious sexual misconduct. We have an accuser backed by a high-profile and controversial lawyer demanding a colossal sum in damages. We have an unprecedented defense strategy involving the public release of incredibly explicit and private text messages. We have a narrative battle raging, with claims of coercion and abuse on one side, and allegations of blackmail, extortion, and a consensual BDSM relationship gone sour on the other. It's a messy, convoluted, and deeply uncomfortable story that seems to grow more bizarre with each new revelation or public statement. The core of the matter, the question of what truly happened between Shannon Sharpe and Gabriella Zuniga, remains shrouded in a fog of conflicting accounts and curated evidence. Did a consensual, albeit unconventional relationship turn into a nightmare of abuse, or is a willing participant in an explicit dynamic now attempting to rewrite history for financial gain? The text messages intended by Sharpe's team to exonerate him have for many only deepened the confusion and raised more questions about the nature of their interactions and his judgment. His demand for Tony Busby to release the whole video of an alleged encounter, claiming the accuser's version is a deliberate setup, adds another layer of intrigue. Will such a video surface? And what would it truly show? The past allegations against Sharpe, whether proven or not, now cast longer shadows. His own public statements about women in relationships are being re-examined through a new, more critical lens. The whole affair has become a public spectacle, a source of endless online debate, speculation, and, unfortunately, often crude humor, overshadowing the very serious nature of the accusations themselves. What do you, the audience, make of all this? Who do you find more credible? Do the text messages absolve Shannon Sharpe, or do they simply paint a more complicated picture of a problematic relationship? Is Gabriella Zuniga a victim seeking justice, or is there a more cynical motive at play? And what about the role of lawyers like Tony Busby in these high-stakes, high-publicity cases? These are the questions that linger, and frankly, there are no easy answers. The insanity of it all is that we, the public, are left to sift through the debris of this exploded relationship, trying to form an opinion based on carefully selected pieces of information presented by parties with clear agendas. Ultimately, the legal process will take its course, but the court of public opinion has already been in session, and its judgments are often swift, harsh, and not always aligned with the eventual legal outcome. This Shannon Sharpe saga is more than just a celebrity scandal. It's a cultural moment, a Rorschach test reflecting our society's ongoing struggles with truth, accountability, and the insane ways private lives can become public consumption in the digital age. And we'll all be watching, wondering what new level of insanity awaits around the next corner.